Commonwealth Business Council, International Trade Center, ILEAP, ECOWAS, NEPAD, Business Group, and the Commonwealth Secretariat. Femi has established the Nigerian Trade and Investment Center, Canada, Inc. Femi is the chairman of Newgate Medical Services Limited, Newgate Hospital, Nigeria. He also runs his private consultancy firm, Koinonia Global Services, Inc., with offices in Canada and Nigeria. As Femi's proposed solution to market access challenges for Nigerian exporters seeking to enter the North American and Canadian markets, he has recently established the Nigerian Trade and Investment Center, Canada. He has also packaged and runs the Export Readiness Program for Nigeria MSMEs in partnership with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Femi Boyede is a certified international trade professional, CITP, the highest professional ranking in international trade in North America. Thank you, everyone. Please join me to welcome Femi Boyede. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Lady K. Thank you, everyone. I'm not sure how many of you, if you did, please signify by raising up your hand. I'm sure a lot of you must have seen me blushing. I actually turned red and blue, and well, that's so much about one person, and I think much more about God. So on his behalf, I welcome you all to today's meeting. And on your behalf, I welcome, I don't know whether to say Chief, Mr., Doctor, Professor, everything that you can add to precede his name. He deserves, he has earned them all. Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI, who will be the one addressing us today. So by way of opening remarks, for those who have been with us the last two editions, you probably are now familiar with the objective of Talking Trade. For those who are joining us for the first time today, Talking Trade is premised on the fact that trade is, I think, about the second recorded human activity. And if you go back into the books, you would understand the encounter between the serpent and the first creatures, Adam and Eve. It was a trade. It was, I have this, I offer you this. If you take it, I'll take that, and blah, blah, blah. So that's how far I trace trade to. But significantly, things are happening. They were happening before. The first time I heard the word globalization was in 1985. That's about 36 years ago. By then, it had come from theory into the world. Whether we believe in globalization or not, something started again in 2019 that actually took that year as its name. COVID-19 has now made the world so global that you just cannot continue on your own. There's no pariah nation any longer. We are all exchanging goods, services, and networks. On this basis, therefore, we thought that trade is a two-edged, it's a two-pronged sword, so to say. You are either exporting or you are importing. So you could be one of both or both at the same time, depending on what end of the stick you are holding. And for the world, especially SMEs from developing economies, to maximize their participation in international trade, we thought that we should introduce a platform whereon issues that challenge the smooth running of trade can be discussed, whereon opportunities inherent in trade can be discussed, whereas the strategies to appropriate profitably these opportunities can be discussed. So in a nutshell, that's what talking trade is about. So it's sometimes we're talking policy, sometimes we're talking logistics, sometimes we're talking practical experiences. And it is instructive that about 80% of the active members on the talking trade platform are actually practitioners. And as we grow, you also notice that our membership has now begun to cut across nations, across continents. That's the whole idea. It is an interchange of expertise, of experience, and of solutions that we'll package together and get there. So that's all about talking trade. I'll just spend the next 2 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to be able to introduce this man in even 20 minutes, but I'm going to do that. Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI, for those of you in the West African, or even on the African continent, you will be very familiar with a company called ProshareNG. Proshare, as far as I know, is Nigeria's foremost financial information hub. And they have also different channels with which they make this hub to be relevant to everybody and to contribute to the economy. So Mr. AWOYEMI is a graduate of accounting and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He's a graduate he's a member of the Institute of Directors and the Institute of Management Consultants. He's an associate member of this Institute of Management and holds a honorary fellowship of the Association of Investment Advisors and Portfolio Managers, Institute of Credit Administration, Business Process Management Institute, and the Institute of Information Management. I just mentioned a few. I can go on and on. But I'm sure Mr. AWOYEMI will permit me to also let you guys know that he's the class captain of the current class of the Nigeria Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, KURU. Of course, those who come from Nigeria will understand that that is the highest policy institute in the land. So that's the person that we're honored to be having today. We have posted his bio earlier on. You actually need to read through it. We can't read and give him the accolades as much as he deserves. So without wasting time any longer, I'm bringing on for your listening pleasure and for your valuable takeaway, the thoughts and experiences of Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI. Please, I'm sure we are in very good hands. Lady K, our anchor, Sheyi, Fumi, Dr. Taiwo, they will be prompting you from time to time to probably ask questions or make contributions. But over the next 20, 25 minutes or thereabout, we are all ears as we welcome you, sir, Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Femi Boyede. Thank you, Kemi Amushan, and thank you, the management team of Talking Trade. Now, since we've used 15 minutes of the time, I will try to accelerate what I want to do. My intention is to take us like 15 minutes and give what I call my considered thoughts in terms of background. Hope that this will be as more interactive as possible.
Let me interject, sir. You actually have 30 minutes.
Well, I don't need that too much. I really don't. I think I'll spend more time with the Q&A so that there are so many issues we can deal with. But thank you very much for the 30 minutes. Maybe I'll take 20. But I think we should just go through those issues because there are quite a number of things that we may want to get through. By the way, by way of disclosure, my research topic at the Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies is actually the African Free Trade Agreement, with specific emphasis in looking at sectors which will be there. The research findings are just coming in and we haven't concluded it. Basically, it's something I take very seriously. And I can tell you honestly, some of the data are quite surprising to me. And even though I'm more comfortable with the Chatham House rules, I want to respect that the things I may say or avoid saying will be one out of decorum, not out of insincerity, as it may be. So thank you, gentlemen. And let me just quickly start with the introduction that in my field, I found out that intelligence is always what the market is thinking tomorrow, imagining, not find out what it sought. But in terms of governance, government always acts from memory. And the conversations after has always been around memory. It's more like when you talk about companies trying to do a change program. Everybody in the company changes except the board. And yet they are the ones that make decisions. And that's exactly what you find here in Nigeria. And I will try to quickly show you some of these things in a few minutes now. First is, let me just present my general thoughts. Also share some of how it affects the SMEs, which will be the later part of it, because the concept of SMEs itself will change as we go ahead in understanding what the AfCFTA is all about. Share some of my insights on my research findings, and respond to comments as best as I can. So the first way is this. There's something about a conceptual understanding of AfCFTA that I still find very challenging. And it's always about modeling. The question is this: are we running a COMESA type model or an SADC model? And one of the two things is this: one, are you running off regional blocks that you have right now, or is it just a 54 African country model? Because each of them has its own challenges. If you take a look at the evolution of Europe and everywhere where you have trade agreements, you either have a currency agreement, a common trade agreement, a free trade agreement, or we seem to have a potpourri. It's called, I think they call it a salad bowl approach, whereby nothing really may happen. It is this conceptual problem around AfCFTA and trade facilitation that I believe is going to be the major challenge, and I'll try to point it out in one or two ways. The sense for most of us is that this can work two ways. One, it can be a Marshall type plan, whereby we make quantum leaps and changes in policies, regulations, and practices in Nigeria, or we should just leave it more like a member-driven arrangement, which is going to be more of the same. And this is not a realistic approach to advancing continental integration. And my sense at this moment is that it is more or less like a member-driven arrangement. And it's about moving through the motion, with the exception of one or two things. Some countries in Africa seem to have broken the code. They have understood that we can use this trade to make better bargains for ourselves, like Ghana did with the European Union, or like Rwanda is doing in terms of positioning its company in anticipation of competition by changing rules and regulations that allows the country to be very competitive. This is almost more like common sense, really, not actual intelligence, really. Sometimes we make this thing sound like somebody has the best intelligence, but it's just common sense. We know how the international trade works, but every time we talk about AfCFTA, we are describing something that is not the same as what we used to do, but it's something that is yet to happen, and which means there are so many changes that would have to be made to understand fully well how do we address the input-output matrix. One of the most powerful things I have seen is that economic diplomacy becomes the new political edge in the Africa that we look at, whether AfCFTA takes effect as it is conceived or not. Each country must begin to understand that the game is that most countries are beginning to harmonize their political and economic objectives as one single one. They are not longer mutually exclusive. And therein lies the power of trade and understanding that an economy that wants to grow must focus on his own SMEs in such a way that he recalibrates them. Understanding, of course, that certain areas may be challenged, but that in terms of his risk profile, you understand that they'll be challenged over some time, but in certain areas, he will have a competitive advantage. And so it's not going to be like after we solve everybody's problem, but it would allow us to understand how we can compete. Now, if you take a look at the main problems around inter-African trade, really, it's basically around legal and regulatory costs. So you talk about the trade barriers and you talk about the non-trade barriers. And these are the issues around AfCFTA. At the end of the day, AfCFTA just comes back to taxes and tariffs. And how do we address these issues around these barriers and the new ones we are creating around it? But for those of us from Nigeria, here's a good and sad news. We had 58 years to plan for this. Nigeria was the first person to suggest the single African trade. And we went through it. In fact, the first other one, it was what most people refer to as the Lagos Plan of Action, was adopted in 1980. We went on all the way to 2019 when we finally signed. And the reason we signed was because we were truly not ready. Because anybody who have read through the rules of origin as contained in the phase 1 of the AfCFTA agreement would understand that Nigeria is not ready. And for 2 reasons. Nigeria at this point did not even have any trade or investment overarching strategy in place for us to operate with. In fact, I proceed to say that Nigeria does not have a trade policy and industrial policy that articulates exactly what Nigeria's key goals and objectives are, that allows any embassy across Africa and in Europe to understand that this is Nigeria's best interest. And it is the absence of that philosophical position that should govern our development that makes it very difficult for us to keep on moving. And as you can see, if the goal around AfCFTA by 2031 is to have zero duty on 90% of tariff lines for countries in ECOWAS Customs Union, Ghana just signed an agreement with EU on the 80-20 rule. Well, let's just hope and see how it works. But I will try and explain some of these things in simple terms for you. So we all know what this AfCFTA is. The common thing they always talk about is the single market. And that's a very interesting one. Africa as a whole would have the largest in the world if it's able to get it right. But like you can see here, I am not so sure whether individual countries can be stopped from taking any action that protects their own interests, but does not sign up into that deal. And it is on that basis that I worry that this thing is fine on paper, but I'm not so sure that we can actually implement it. But for countries who understand their strategic interests, they will go through it. So I've always said it, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So which type of suffering are we ready to avoid or to take? So I'm trying to just move too fast. Some of these things are not ready. Let me focus on these 3 issues. In my own experience and my own work, I've looked at these 3 major areas. I categorize them in my own way as the first one, this with the old economy. That is trade as you know it, where people like Femi have built a whole stock of knowledge and base in there. The most critical things are in there for me are the rules of origin and procedures on the settlement of disputes. If you look at what happened with the closure of border in Cotonou and what have you, is that those Kampala agreements that were in place were never even followed through. So it made it easy for people to just ship vehicles into Cotonou, and it finds its way through Nigeria at the detriment of Nigeria. And it is because we are not able to enforce those. Those are the issues we are trying to resolve. And I can report honestly now that Nigeria seems to have addressed that up to about 97%. So maybe Nigeria would have been free from phase 1. But you see, phase 2 and phase 3 is what we call the new economy. And this is where the game changing for the Nigerian economy really lies. It is where most or some of us are spending most of our time rather than on the phase 1. Phase 1 is the old order. Phase 2 and 3 will define the new order, for wherein we see that Nigeria also has competitive advantages, especially intellectual property rights and e-commerce. Unfortunately, our definition of intellectual property rights in Nigeria is still so far behind and archaic. And those legal instruments that we need to put in place, we haven't started the conversations. My friend Shuaibu Yauri, who is in charge of trademarks, has been working hard on this thing, but there seems not to be coherence in government's plan to make it. So if you have an SME who is in charge of products requiring IP rights in order to be able to trade, these are new areas of challenges we will have to deal with. And so by way of summarizing my opening thoughts around this subject matter, is to say that every time you look at these two, look at this particular graph with you, and I keep on using it to explain the changing dynamics. Those were the companies in 1980 to 2010 that we felt we were writing agreements for. Most of those agreements we wrote may not be relevant for the companies you see here. Indeed, I dare say that it's even changed. If you take a look at it, let me go back again. If you look at between these 2 decades here, or 3 decades here, 1980 to 2010, look at the companies we are talking about, Eleganza, Peugeot. And so most of those agreements were written around those markets, those economies, those ways of conducting business. But if you take a look at the dominant companies in Nigeria today, and you look at them, the agreements we have in place would have to be, we have to rethink them in order to be able to allow these entities to thrive, because these entities reflect the future. And if you break it further down between 2010 and 2019, I can even break it further down, you begin to see that some of these companies are different. The companies that would dominate really will not have the same agreements and our concept of trade as we understood it here. And it will be different entirely. So again, for the purposes of the conversation we're having, it is always important to have the dichotomy between the old economy and the new economy. But the dominant companies you have here are such that the agreements we have in place will have to change. So many believe that Nigeria's dependence on oil has, relative to its potentials in human capacity, has been some of an issue. My own sense is this, that in this session, and that's why I was telling my dear host, Kemi, that it would be nice if I give my general thoughts and I can then go into specifics, which is also part of my slide presentation, is that we would have to address a few things. So let me start with a few things. There is a survey that came out, I think it's 2018. A new one is coming out, but it hasn't been finalized yet. But in this survey, it sampled 512 companies across the geographical zones of Nigeria, or the geopolitical zone. And in terms of the sample side, you have 70% are small-scale businesses, 20 are medium-scale businesses, 10% are large businesses. And these are the definitions we use, they used in the sample size. But here are the findings. 94% of the businesses in Nigeria are actually aware of ACTA and the signing of the agreement. The awareness is uniform across firms or sizes. 55% of the businesses believe Nigerian business environment is currently hostile, unsupportive. Power, supply, taxes and tariffs, access to credit and road infrastructure are the top 4 challenges of the Nigerian business ecosystem. The sampled businesses believe that the top 3 advantages of ACTA is a better business environment, promotion of local businesses, and business expansion. Basically aspirational things, nothing concrete that can convert to money. The top 3 disadvantages of ACTA are, however, real, and they are real threats. They are the influx of substandard goods, which is already happening, the discouragement of local businesses, already happening, and the loss of revenue for Nigeria, which is happening on 2 fronts, both internal sabotage by itself and its inefficient system, and also by the fact that Nigeria loses money because the trade adjustment is skewed. The top 3 sources of uncertainty are possibilities that after we boost the economy. Well, again, this is just aspirational and it's not really operational. Another, overall, 78% of the businesses believe that after we make a positive impact on local business, 10% believe that the impact will be negative, while 12% believe it will have no impact. The consensus among the researchers is that the benefits of ACTA for business and the economy depends on what and how each party handles the unique opportunities. So at this stage, I would say that you should permit me to change to my notes in form of this presentation, which may be helpful. But let me leave the screen on where it is right now so I can talk to you. Permit me just to change the screen so that I can. Okay, my apologies here. And so the facts that we see, if you look at the business scale in Nigeria, you have total number of enterprises in Nigeria at about 41 million, of which micro is now about 99.8% of them. Or the small business about 71, and the medium business is about 1,793. This is not an unusual database for you to have, but it just shows you very well that you have the majority of your small businesses at the level of the micro, which is about 99%, and just 1%, the proverbial 1%, is the real businesses that deliver revenue for the company, that deliver the big businesses. And virtually all the policies that we have in place are such and skewed that they do not support the micro businesses, and after itself would not even reveal any support for the micro businesses as you have it. The recent research we have done has shown that there are basically very few things that could happen around these areas for you. I decided, therefore, to ask Mr. Boyede a few things to help me understand how to deal with this, because again, people like myself, we suffer from the problem of sometimes appearing highfalutin and not getting to brass tacks. Unfortunately, I do. So I asked some 6 questions, which I thought I'd provide the answers to in a way that can make sure that that's my presentation entirely. And then I would take more questions usually. As an SME owner, what are the various information resources I can access to give me a better idea of the trade opportunity that's available within the African free trade? Now, if you look at the presentation of the survey I showed you, it says 98%, 94% of people are aware. I can tell you for a fact that there is nowhere you can go to and you can actually pick up the right thing for you to do as an SME in Nigeria today. Between the National Action Committee on AfCFTA, of which I serve at the behest of the government, of the private sector on some of the working groups, and the National Office of Trade of Nigeria, a body that is not created by any legal document, it is instructive to understand that who is directly in charge of running trade and driving the trade policy. We assume it is the Ministry of Trade and Investment. And we also assume that we have something called the Nigeria Investment and Promotion Council, where you and this article is. But I can tell you that the major challenge we have in government is that not everybody is all singing from the same hymn book. And that is one of the biggest challenges, unspoken challenges we have. And whereas you can pick up information in pamphlets and FAQs and what have you, we still do not yet have a coherent position in terms of it. So how would the SMEs engage? I'm sure that they will try to find ways in which they can engage. And I've shared this with Mr. Boyede. I can provide sources where you can see the national policy on MSMEs, the effects done by SIPE and so on. But yet I'm still looking for what you want to do, which sectors does Nigeria want to promote? And most importantly, the critical question, when are we reviewing our tariff structures in order to align them to provide a competitive advantage Nigeria needs, given the high cost of production in Nigeria, which makes it a less competitive environment. So it is easier for you to produce aluminum from Ghana and bring it into Nigeria than to produce actually in Nigeria, because your most significant cost is energy cost. Then you add on to that is security cost. Add on to that what I call the inherent cost of non-state actors functioning as state actors. So you have about 45 to 48% of your cost, according to Muda Yusuf's Lagos Chambers of Commerce and Industry, already in that place already. So for you SMEs to compete, you have one hand tied behind your back within the AfCFTA group. Let me take the second most important question. It says, is there a platform where SMEs can come together to discuss with the relevant government agencies? Yes, there are. And these conversations have been going on at the highest level. In fact, this is one of those conversations that led to the near embarrassing situation whereby the advanced team had already gone ahead towards the signing, and we had to pull back to address one or two issues which were of serious concern to the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria and NASIMA. Those issues bordered around rules of origin, basically around rules of origin, and to the advantage of Nigeria. It gladdens my heart to report that these issues have been addressed and resolved, and that the National Action Committee, having operated without a clear direction, is able to then begin to work with the National Office of Trade again, and the Ministry and the Trade Desk in the Ministry of Trade and Investment. And they have something they call SME Aggregation Program. I'm not a great fan of programs. I would rather see policy, but there has not been any policy in that regard, but they just have these programs and it sounds really nice. So for those who are interested, you can read up on it and make some really nice, interesting conversations. But beyond that, that's it. Now, if you are in the space where I operate, in the digital creative SMEs, you ask, how can I protect my products and how do I get into the regional value chain? And this is one of my own areas of interest, really, which I call the phase 2 negotiation phase. And I'm going to take a pause here to make sure I get my points very correctly. Everybody understands that innovation, creativity, and branding represent the critical largest amount of value addition. It is not a coincidence that the leading countries in the world have the largest patents and intellectual property rights. There are some fundamental issues around what we have in Nigeria, and I would like to be enlightened on it. Our definition of what is a patent hasn't changed much from the cake one. Our definition of what intellectual property rights is, and the process of getting intellectual rights that are globally acceptable is still not yet in place in Nigeria. And if we're going to sign this agreement this year, you will find out that not only do you find creative people, and including myself, go to sign our agreements in Ghana, for example, because we do not have it in Nigeria, this becomes a major challenge. The second major issue around here is the role of RECs, the regional economic communities. Some of us have the conceptual thought process that the AfTA should have been an agreement amongst regional economic communities rather than individual countries. In such a way, most communities can therefore build themselves up and then they trade amongst themselves, more like what happens within the SADC, the South African region. And this challenge is that for you to get anything done, SMEs would have to become members of chambers of commerce or trade associations, because those are the only ones which the regional economic communities deal with. For example, ECOWAS will not deal directly with XYZ. An example that has always bothered me is the example of Cote d'Ivoire business. Dr. I can't remember the full name. Cote d'Ivoire Business Solutions, a company registered in Nigeria, who set up companies in about 3 West African countries and was virtually driven out of those countries because they did not have any enabling support and the laws just keeps on changing. And so if you decide to go into those countries to offer services, we rest assured that you do not have the support, especially from the Nigerian embassy to start with, which is what most of these countries are using to enable them to do trade. In actual fact, a fun fact, most embassies today now make sure that the Economic Council has a trade desk that is basically driving and helping businesses compete and solve problems. If we are going to do AfTA, it is not just an AfTA thing that is done in the Trade Ministry. It is something that has to be done via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. And so the role between the Chambers of Commerce, the trade associations, the Ministry of Finance is such that every country you go to, you basically have a staging post. And what you find called the NIPC and all those other pseudo agencies created for a different time means that the architecture of how we want to engage with Africa has to change, which is one of those challenges at the National Action Committee that I do not believe we are gotten around to start addressing already. But this will open up new changes. And for those organizations like MAN, Chambers of Commerce, I'm sure that if they understand what they're really doing, and I'm sure some of them do very well, this is a great opportunity for them to reestablish value and relevance. The third one is, how do I increase my SME chances of getting access to funding from banks such as the AFDB and AfriExim Bank? The truth of the matter is that there are quite a number of opportunities, but again, it's about a function of scale. You see, most of the businesses we have, they want to solo and do it all on all. You're basically trading. You can only trade if you do not have volume or size on your advantage, you will not be able to get it. And that's why you see that chart I showed you. The 1% or the 5% will get most of all these things because they have the requirements in there. So the requirements by this agency should be what we should focus on. If you look at the requirements, not too many SMEs will qualify for it. And that's where you find out where, I think it was Femi Boyede in one of your programs talking about the concept of cooperatives or people working together. Again, Femi said something very interesting at the start of the show. He said something about globalization. But here's the thing. Femi, the consequences of globalization is that most advanced countries are now changing that concept from globalization to localization. Understanding and appreciating the whole value chain playing in a global world, but understanding that they will localize most of those value of productions in those entities they are trading with rather than then ship them. It's a subject matter I can discuss further, but in terms of access to facilities, the more popular one is the AfCFTA one, under what they call the Working Capital Guarantee Program. And I've seen it work for a number of companies, and they've used it to turn themselves around. Now, an interesting question is, what are the specific investment opportunities inherent in single market for Africa? You see, this question in itself is a consultancy opportunity. So to answer it, I felt that it was important that I explain to you all that there is always opportunities in everything, depending on what you look at. If you look at, you may not see opportunity, but if you look very carefully, you will see. But here is the thing. How many have taken time to read the different protocols of AfCFTA? Before AfCFTA, I went through a list of agreements, and I may share with you, there are about 88 types of agreements that Nigeria has signed on to across Africa, 88 with different countries around trade. How these agreements will be harmonized together, and some will be canceled, and some will be brought together, is a major challenge. And I think that any of you here should send a proposal to government to help them sort it out. I'm not sure we have a clear idea of what it is we've all signed up into. And so we jump from one agreement to the other, not looking back at the other agreements. And so it creates it. But we see quite a number of opportunities here. And we listed some of them here, some of which I'll make available should it be requested for. But a cautionary note I picked up during my research and conversations are as follows. People ask, the opportunities for investments are available, but can a Nigerian business, for example, go to Rwanda or Ghana and be treated equally or better? And with all due respect, this is one of the questions where I said our naivety sometimes underscores the fact that we haven't taken on the issue of trade and business very seriously. Nobody hands anything to anyone. There's a reason why if you have value, they will invite you to come here and say, set up your plant with us here. The whole idea is they wanted to change. But that question is powerful because it then raises the many dimensions to our approach to trade and the single market goal. For example, what is the value and place of bilateral and multilateral agreements that we sign? How do we address the limitations of tariffs and taxes? How do we deal with the challenge of non-trade barriers as countries become to be a little bit more protectionist in their approach, and for good reasons too? And what is the place of productivity and comparative advantages in an economy? Because it's in answering these 4 questions that matters to you why we would know. For a country like Nigeria saying that I want to go to other markets, you have the largest market. Which other market are you trying to serve? It's because in your country, for example, the market is not organized yet. As disorganized as it is, we then begin to find the Chinese coming here and disaggregating and decoupling the market in such a way that they are able to achieve sales, or what I call the saturation of the Nigerian product and consumer market. I guess this is where the question around our trade and investment overarching policy and the absence of it becomes critical. And this is the last one will be Femi's favorite question. I think he likes talking about the mainstreaming of cooperatives within the AfCFTA framework. And I can see him nodding. And you are absolutely correct, 100%. There are very few efforts at mainstreaming cooperatives within the AfCFTA framework. This is a defect, both in conceptualization, but most importantly, it has been a problem we face in Nigeria. They are coordinating things to bring together SMEs. It's all about rhetoric, you know. The AfCFTA Secretariat, the Commissioner for Trade and Industry says that the Secretariat is working at bringing SMEs together in training. If you read the Nigerian news headlines and information, you always hear things Nigeria plans to, we will do by this time. We are thinking of. You never hear, this is what we did, this is what we learned. It's always what we are going to do, what we are taking out, which means there's really nothing going to happen. So, to all those who are from government listening in, just consider this as being a very quiet comment on the reality, is that it is rhetoric. The unfortunate thing is that cooperatives are still seen and treated as an informal and unregistered organization, not as the clusters needed to deliver interventions to change the economy. So every time we talk about we want to grow business, there is a way to do so. You treat these cooperatives as clusters rather than individual. Those micro 4.1 million I showed you, they must come together as cooperatives, and that's the only way. But we treat them like outsiders in the ecosystem. But if there's any good news, it must have come from the announcement of the partnership between the National Cooperative Financing Agency of Nigeria and the Abuja Cooperative Federation, who signed a partnership with the African Diaspora Chamber of Commerce. Again, thank those of you in the diaspora to provide access to funds for cooperatives in Africa, Nigeria being one of the prime destinations. All things being equal, we hope that the funds will be used properly, but it will build up. But to support what you are doing, Femi, I think you're absolutely correct. The cooperatives is the way to go. We haven't done much in that regard, and it is my desire that we will do much. So, Madam Kemi, these are just my general thoughts. I would be happy to take questions and to explore in more detail from our esteemed participants. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so very much. This was really wonderful. It was the presentation was so simple and easy to follow, and yes, a whole lot was shared within a very short time. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it. This is our questions and answer sessions and comments. You can put your questions on the chat, or you can actually raise up your hand by using the raise up feature, or you can raise up your hand physically and we're going to allow you to speak. Meanwhile, before the questions start coming in, Mr. Femi Boyede, you have some comments and questions? Yeah, on mute. Unmute yourself.
Lady K, how did you know that I was going to have some comment?
I saw your eyes and I understand those eyes.
There is somebody else on this platform. When we have virtual meetings, she's always looking at my my comportment. I didn't say the Studio Joe on this platform, by the way. Thank you so much, my brother, my boss, and our guest today, Mr. Femi AWOYEMI. I know that somewhere towards the end, you will still give us a final word, but just to facilitate the thought process for our esteemed participants today. You have mentioned some very key, I don't want to call them challenges, I don't want to say criticisms, but they are nuggets that we need to think about. First and foremost, the market of Africa is so big. Maybe the largest single component of it is that of Nigeria because of population. But when you aggregate the whole of Africa, how much of it can one small, micro, or medium enterprise satisfy? Probably not possible. And so I am very excited at your suggestion and agreement that for SMEs to actually take advantage of this opening opportunity, they need to quickly begin to seek affiliations, memberships, groupings, trade groups, associations, where they can actually aggregate, bring in from here, bring in from there, and then you have the volumes, because the AfCFTA is a trade of volumes. I thank you for that. There is also a call on the other side, the government side. Preparation. Somebody said, success is what happens when preparation meets with opportunity. And like you said, for 58 years, we have been preparing. One ethnic group in Nigeria has this funny axiom, asking a question: if you spend 3 years to, learn how to become, to be a madman, how much time will be left for you to actually manifest insanity? So I think that you kind of zero that one into having an economic direction. Diplomatic, is it economic diplomacy or whatever it is? Which one are we going to be known for? Just to tickle our thinking faculties. SMEs are here today. They want to know how to jump into that market. And so the questions you are going to be asking, Mr. AWOYEMI, and I'm sure there are a few other experts here who can contribute. How do we address those challenges? Thank you very much.
Just a quick one, Femi.
Yes.
I just need to make a few clarifications in respect of those agreements I mentioned. And I hope I can do that while here. Just a few clarifications concerning that as a matter of integrity. So if you can see the screen, to the gentleman who asked, so I've listed them here. Trade and agreement between Nigeria and African countries. For example, with South Africa, we have about 32 bilateral trade agreements and MOUs, just with South Africa alone. We have one with Niger Republic for transportation and storage of petroleum products, which was signed last year. NNPC signed another one with the Algeria National Gas Corporation also last year for the Trans-Saharan pipeline. In 2005, we signed another one with Pepsi for physics on the project. We have a West African gas pipeline agreement between Nigeria, Benin Republic, Togo, and Ghana to enable gas to be supplied from escravos to other countries. In number 5, we have Nigeria and Benin Republic signed a treaty to establish the ECOWAS Lagos-Abuja corridor to link their countries. Kenya and Nigeria signed an MOU and 3 trade agreements targeted at promotion of trade and agriculture between the two countries. Nigeria and Kenya also went into a bilateral agreement which led to the issue of the visa deal that will permit free entry for business. Nigeria has one with Uganda, what we call the Nigeria-Uganda Joint Permanent Commission in 2019. Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire has a bilateral agreement as well. Nigeria and Morocco has one, also around gas. Which the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Funds is actually investing in. Nigeria and Morocco has other ones also on different issues, quite a number of them. Nigeria and Ethiopia has one, which is, although it is not yet enforced, Nigeria and Egypt, Nigeria and Uganda again. Nigeria has one with South Africa. Nigeria has one with Algeria. The key thing you want to look at in all these things is that what were those businesses that they were signed for? Are they the businesses that the majority of people are doing in the next, currently, or they will be doing in the next few years? So we sign most of these agreements that is conveniently. Most of us forget and never talk about it because they do not dovetail to the level of SMEs. And that was the point I was trying to say. I just thought I'd make that point. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Dr. Peter Ayim.
Thank you very much. I'm here.
Okay, can we see you on camera? Is the camera working?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so very much. We are really happy that you have joined us and that you are willing to share some of your valuable knowledge with us. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Kemi, and thank you, my brother, Femi Boyede. Let me also thank Mr. AWOYEMI for sharing very invaluable and thought-provoking thoughts. But my worry is this. If we're talking African trade or cross-border trade, I'm wondering which categories of the MSMEs we're expecting to play in this space. I am saying this against the background of the fact that of the 41.5 million MSMEs that we have in Nigeria, how competitive are they? How productive are they? How are they well placed and structured to play effectively, especially at the international cross-border trade? There are critical enterprise growth inhibitors. If you check the Nigerian Stock Exchange Growth Board Initiative, you would discover that out of the 41.5 million MSMEs, only 9 are listed there. And that speaks to one thing, that a whole lot of the MSMEs that we're talking about here are not ready to compete. They don't have structures. They are inhibited. They don't have what it takes to compete globally. I think that is where we should be looking at. Mr. AWOYEMI mentioned the fact that he mentioned 4 factors. One is he mentioned energy, taxes, tariff, and access to credit. But the truth of the matter is that most of our MSMEs cannot access credit because of their foundational defect. I think if we want to be having this conversation, we should be looking at what are those critical growth inhibitors that set MSMEs back. And then, of course, which of these MSMEs should we be looking at to help position them to be able to compete effectively, in international trade? A whole lot. There are a whole lot of issues. So it's beyond us talking about, classifying MSMEs. The question we should be looking at, even at the level of policy making, is how do we deliberately position or help MSMEs overcome critical growth inhibitors that positions them, or rather enhance their productivity and competitiveness. I don't know those are the issues, because it's like you want to go and compete, or you want to participate in the Olympics, just like what is playing out what played out in the current Olympics, where because we're ill prepared, we went there and flopped. So are we expecting that MSMEs, without preparing them to participate or competitively, we want to take them to the world stage, and we end up being disgraced? Is that what we're talking about? So if you ask me, sir, I want to suggest that as we are having this conversation on perfecting the free trade agreement and defining the rules of MSMEs, we should be looking at how we can help position MSMEs to compete effectively. That's the way I think we should go. Talking about grouping and clustering and cooperative strategy, just a couple of days ago, we were discussing with my brother Femi Boyede that all of this conversation that is going on, there is no conversation around how cooperatives can participate. And then there's a need for us to begin to look towards that direction, and that conversation is ongoing. Okay, so finally, I want to say that it is important for us to look beyond just clustering MSMEs and just saying, let's go and participate. The truth of the matter is that our MSMEs have structural defects. They have foundational challenges. And so we should begin to look at how best we can help them overcome those critical growth inhibitors. I am saying this because that's the space we are playing. I'm a business development service provider, and those are the issues we are looking at. We have been able to develop a framework, to engage MSMEs. Again, I'm talking about pure private sector development. Some of these conversations are not, there is nowhere the public sector can comprehend. And then we drew our inspiration from the Committee of Donor Agencies. The subject matter of business development services is an emerging phenomenon, okay? And it started only way back in 2000 when the Committee of Donor Agencies started thinking about how to support MSMEs. So we have not been able to develop enough capacity, to drive robust private sector development in Nigeria. And so that gap is there. So finally, I want to submit that as we continue this conversation on promoting trade and having MSMEs to participate, there is a critical gap that we need to bring to the table. And that conversation is how can we effectively, how can we help MSMEs to overcome critical growth inhibitors and position them to compete effectively in international trade.
Thank you so very much, Doctor. That was
my humble submission.
Very humble submission indeed. Is very
permit me to quickly respond to Dr. Ayim. It's important because he's raising, he used the word finally 3 times, Dr. Ayim. So let me quote you there. Finally 3 times. But here's the thing, Dr. Ayim, and I'm going to quickly share a screen with you. I always like to back things up with evidence. As I said to you, okay, so here is, you pay attention to this, Dr. Ayim. This particular screen reflects what the ones at the Nigerian Action Committee on Trade have looked at, and this is across Africa. So when you keep on talking about structural defects and critical growth inhibitors, these are not limited to Nigeria alone. This is across Africa in about 6 major areas. If you look at it really, insecurities there, predatory trade practices are there, regulatory constraints are there, funding constraints are there, infrastructural constraints are there, productivity and production issues are there. It's a joy for me, because you're a business development specialist, to then understand that the competitive advantage we're talking about is that for each person, there are different risk levels in their own countries, which offers them either their productivity advantages or their competitiveness advantages that they have. I agree with you, however, that for Nigeria, if you want to get into this kind of party, you have to define for yourself, how do I create incentives for my businesses to be able to overcome some of these challenges that allows us to be able to compete to win? 100%, you are absolutely correct. But it does not make it mutually exclusive, therefore, that the concept of aggregate does not also become part of the solution, because it may offer in itself an economies of scale. Permit me, Dr. Ayim, to also quickly step up to another level here, which is to show you some of Nigeria's edge within the African disadvantage. You have put that the proverbial Yoruba word is that you have put your hand in my mouth now to talk now and show you some of the things. Now, if you look at some of these advantages there, you will see here that the greatest challenge that Nigeria continues to have is not the lack of knowledge that we all share here, or the lack of understanding how to put it together. It is 2 things: having the overall objective, very clear objective, and then understanding how to plug everything in there. Let me cast your mind back by way of a misdirection, is that Nigeria stopped implementing a national development plan. In fact, I posted that Nigeria stopped operating its national planning commission almost about 10 years ago. We don't have that. And that is a missing link in putting governance together to work for a strategic objective. And so you will find out that what they will be thinking of will be like this. When we talk about companies, will be something like this. Have you noticed? These are the companies that you will be talking about promoting. How do we help the UBA? How do we do that? So sooner or later, you will find out that in order to find a way to move on, the lines between state capture and oligopoly becomes blurred, to the extent that you then understand that their own interpretation of the aggregates we are talking about is that let all small businesses collapse into it just to have big ones alone who can form, which was the thinking we had. There is a place where we can have a Transcorp type model, which is almost like a Kirisu model or the cable model, which is used. And there is a place for where any society cannot operate without keeping a focus on those micro businesses itself and taking away those limitations in order to allow them to survive and thrive, not only from employment position, but overall productivity of the people. And it is in this regard, sir, that I conclude. And this time I'm saying finally once.
Okay, Lady K, if you don't mind, let me just try to bridge the 2 opinions. There is no doubt.
Yes.
And I was looking for something. Please permit me. I made this contribution on another platform yesterday, so not to waste time, I'm just going to read it out. So somebody says, standardization is the key to boosting Nigeria's exports. That was the comment. My response, I said, good key, but not the key. THI as key. Just one of them. Competitiveness is the lowest common factor. It includes standardization, that is to enable the product or service stand out against competing similar products or services. But other factors will naturally include pricing. This brings into play the various infrastructures that go into producing the product or service and cost of procuring them, if not available or if they are inadequate, financing costs, logistics costs, etc. Export readiness capacity of the players at all levels, the exporter, the broker, the banker, the government, etc. Market access and market entry strategies. This is why a consultation-based export strategy and robust basket of export incentives remain a sine qua non for Nigeria's export success. I was making this contribution on another platform that addresses Nigeria. Talking trade, we try as much as possible to make it global. Why did I read this out? Because between Mr. AWOYEMI and Dr. Ayim, we have kind of collapsed the solutions into these specific action plans. But who will bear the cat? Who comes to play the actioneering? I don't know. Well, Professor Oleshoyinka told me that you can be so good in English that you invent your own words. So I'm taking the license now to invent the word actioneering. So who is going to actioneer the things that we're talking about here this morning? There is no way. Let AfCFTA Secretariat, let it come to Idumota in or Tauroni in Kano or wherever within Nigeria. Let it be under the nose of Nigeria or Nigerians, unless the SMEs are enabled, unless their capacity is built, unless they are able to do international competitive trading. There is no way that that country is going to make any profit from AfCFTA. Mr. AWOYEMI talked about AfCFTA's journey having started about 58 years ago. How long has AGOA been in existence? The Africa Growth and Opportunity Act has entered 21 years. The same way with AfCFTA, Nigeria was one of the reasons why America conceptualized the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. We were, at that time, I was one of the consultants. I worked with Maggie in the American embassy in Nigeria as of the early 2000s on AGOA. If you go to the AGOA platform today, 98% of what is recorded as Nigeria's trade with AGOA is crude oil. So when is it that that country is going to be prepared to take advantage of Africa Growth and Opportunity Act and the 88, or is it 32 out of the 88 other agreements that Femi has reeled out today? Those are the things, but the question that I still will be happy, maybe as we go on, and I'm hopeful that talking trade will generate the interest from the legitimate and relevant agencies of government to learn. Before they come, it's like if mountain will not go to Mohammed, Mohammed will go to the mountain. The talking trade team has made a commitment that when critical issues and comments and recommendations, such as Mr. AWOYEMI's presentation today and the contributions that you guys are making from the floor, we will package them and send them to the relevant agencies of the relevant governments that are involved. And I use government in plural because sometimes we could be talking something that is germane to the Ghanaian government, for example. There's no reason why one has been the country facilitator focal point for ECOWAS trade experts for several years if I cannot send the outcomes of our discussions to every country, at least on the ECOWAS sub-region. We will do that. Please, Lady K, let's take more comments and contributions.
Okay, thank you so very much. Actually, most of the questions, or rather the questions were already answered by our guest already. Let me see if any other thing is there. If there's any other question or comment, like I said earlier, you are free to raise up your hand using the feature or actually raising up your hand.
Lady K, before you call Dr. Ayim again, because we're talking about trade and competitiveness, I will please employ you to allow our last month's guest speaker, Titi Ojo, to make a comment here. Because I know also that there is a forum already being planned to talk about these challenges that are inhibiting the Nigerian SME from exporting. Please, if you don't mind, please let Lady Titi Ojo.
Okay, that's so true. Madam Titi Ojo, we welcome you again. Thank you. It was great having you the other time. If you can please unmute yourself, and if your camera is functioning, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, you can just unmute yourself so we can hear from you. This program you will have coming up, we have been seeing the flyer. You are still on mute. I saw you try to unmute yourself now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay,
Loud and
let
clear.
me see if you can. Hi, oh, I'm not with my glasses right now. All right, so good evening, everyone. I had to just jump from where I was to this place. So great. I've been listening to a whole lot of, SMEs. We've always been the eye of the storm, unfortunately. But it's very important as well that we need to start thinking of how can we solve our problems. How can we solve our problems? Quite a number of the problems are also process-related policies. Yes, we have all sorts of policies, all sorts of agreements. I think our speaker talked almost 80 of that, almost about 80 agreements. And I'm wondering how this exists, dear Lord. Where's the place where SMEs in all of this? So because of this, of course, the network of practicing oil exporters will be having the third town hall meeting. Part of one of the roles of the MPN, that's the network of practicing oil exporters, is to ensure that we also have dialogue with government, evidence-based, because that's very important. We're talking about the challenges we're facing right now, or the issues or the bottlenecks. We need to also bring evidence to the table. So that's very important. And in these conversations, we also want practitioners to take the front seat, not the back seat. The practitioners are the ones saying, these are the issues. I remember on this platform, I think last week, someone actually raised a particular constraint with the shipping lines, for example. And this is a real situation ongoing right now. So indeed, people like that will want to come forward, and let's even talk about the issues. Let's be evidence-based. Let government also begin to see where the problems lie. Even ourselves, as practitioners, where we can help and support the system to also work. And that's very important to us at MPN. This particular program is going to hold on the 25th, that's Wednesday. It's a webinar that will hold in the morning, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is the third in the series. The last we had was in May, I think. So this is the third this year. And it's very important that we join in. Let me see if I can just quickly glance at the title, but I'm sure we have one of the flyers on this platform as well. So it'll be great to have everyone join in. This is the time to lend our voices to the issues. The theme is ensuring competitiveness of Nigeria's non-oil exports, key current challenges and practicable solutions. Wednesday, August 25, 2021, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's important that we're all there as practitioners. This might just be the platform where we can get government officials also sitting with us, and we're able to say, this is it. How can we solve those problems? And this is how policies also come to be. It becomes quite inclusive. We have the voices of the exporters themselves. We are part of the process. So that's very important. Mr. Boyede, thanks for creating the opportunity to talk about this again. We'll be setting the flyers up very widely, and we expect that. Let's find some time. Let's be in there, 25th of August. 11 a.m. Let's talk about the issues. On the employment side, we're also going to be looking at getting the critical stakeholders into the room that day, both from private sector and government. So we're trying our best to make sure that those that need to be present are actually present at that town hall. It makes it more, the results, we can begin to see some results. If we have the kind of people that should be sitting there discussing the issue there, please, let's make it a date. Thank you, Lady K.
Thank you so very much. Okay.
So that's it, yes, that's the flyer.
Okay. Are you sharing your screen now?
No,
Thank
that
you.
was from
So it's Mr. Boyede that shared it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because I was actually going to read something from Olufemi AWOYEMI. Okay, so now before I go ahead, someone puts there on the chat forum, on the chat group. Are you going to share the recording after this? We always have the recording shared on our YouTube channel. We actually have a YouTube channel, Talking Trade with Femi Boyede, where we have kept all the former, the previous discussions. You're going to find them there. And this one will equally be there as well. We usually send the links to all attendees. So watch out in your email, you will see the links for you to actually view the recording. And I see, what are the action plans or points after this session? Do we leave this to government, or can a working committee here lead the initiative and work with government? What working arrangements can we have between the private sector and the government? Who will harmonize these 88 trade-related agreements?
I mean, you want to start?
Yeah.
You want me to give a response?
Yes, I see Dr. Ayim's hand up, so let me concede and allow him to respond. And
Or maybe he forgot to lower the hand. Is it not
paying? No, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Okay, I thought the hand would be paying you by now.
Okay, I just quickly want to respond to two issues. One raised by Dr. Boyede in terms of what did he call it? Actioneering. And then, but before I speak to that, let me quickly say something about what Titi said about shipping challenge. Mr. Boyede and I have been reading the book of Lamentation on how ships come loaded to Nigeria and go back empty. For years, for decades, we've been having that conversation. So you begin to wonder why we do the things, do things the way we do things. So that challenge has been there. It's not an emerging phenomenon. It has been there for decades. It's like a lifestyle for us, talking about international trade. So I think we really begin to need to. I'm happy that Titi is, talked about the upcoming event, and they need to have all stakeholders in the room to have a conversation on how best to remove some of these impediments. So having said that, actioneering, Mr. Boyede.
Yes, sir.
The truth of the matter that you said something about AGOA and the conversation about common trade in Africa that has lasted over 5 decades. The truth of the matter is that, yes, policy formulation is key. But you see, what we should be considering is, in the over 5 decades that this talks about policy formulation, articulation, and implementation has been going on, how well have these translated to measurable outcomes? So my question is, we cannot begin to, or continue to insist that, yes, unless government moves, the private sector will not work. I'm having a rethink. And my strategy to doing what we are doing at the level of providing business development services for MSMEs is thinking private strictly. Yes, we can be guided by policy, MSME policy, or as it is, we don't even have a trade policy in Nigeria. So maybe the only thing that we have is the MSME policy. So we can be guided by that. And then, but our strategy to creating impact is private sector driven. And having said that, sir, the way we can achieve impact is for us to converge. All of us that share these common thoughts, about that are progressive, if you like, there's a need for us to converge and begin to see how we can create momentum, to drive sustainable impact. So that's what I want to say about actioneering. Because if you wait for government, we'll wait for another 50-something years. The AGOA thing is not working. And then the African trade is here. How are we sure it will work? Even as we speak right now, we're not even ready. So those are some of the concerns I thought I should share.
Okay, thank you so very much, Doctor. And I have this person. Please, if you are there, we would like you to say something.
Lady K, sorry again. I have just been informed that we have Hajia Aisha Abubakar with us, immediate past Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. On behalf of the team and all of us here, I'd like to welcome you. And that you are here means that somehow government is beginning to be here. I know they will say it's X this, X that in Nigeria, but I also know the reach that this person has. She's also the co-chair of the Network of Practicing Non-Oil Exporters of Nigeria. And whatever it is, wherever we arrive at this morning, especially in creating a coalition of interested people to push the conversation forward, please, for your information, we will be coming to you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and thank you so much for attending, madam. And Zachary Abubakar, are you there? Are you there? Zachary Abubakar. Yes, I can see you. You're on mute. You want to unmute yourself? Make your comment. Okay. If he's unable to unmute himself at this moment, he just put on the chat. Hello, everyone. I'm Junior Trade Negotiator at the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. The importance of issues discussed here cannot be overemphasized. Among various stumbling blocks against trade, it's a pleasure being part of this. What caught my attention was actually the various stumbling blocks. Would have been nice if you could just say one or two things about those things. However, we have discussed them extensively today, and we have really spent a very valuable, useful time again today, as usual, on this program. As we are coming to the end of the program, I want to call on Seyi Fumi Adebote. He has some announcements to make. Please unmute yourself, Seyi.
Yes, just before I do that, I see that Mr. AWOYEMI's hand is up, so you can just round off there. Thanks. Mr. AWOYEMI.
Yeah, thank you. It should be unlike me not to have a word to say after. Chief, first is to say thank you very much, and and to remark that the business of building Nigeria is a collective one. There are so many reasons to be despondent, but that it would be nice for us to lean on what Zachary said, instead that we are discussing issues. But I want to quickly piggyback off what Dr. Ayim said. He said, sorry that I'm lamenting, but I'm going to say to him that lamentations, though it's actually the longest laments in the Bible, but it's the long language that is needed in recovery. It shows us how to go about taking action when the dark clouds of suffering envelopes every one of us. One of the critical challenges we face right now is not so much of whether it is just regurgitating the things of the past. It is that we must therefore learn a new language of lamentation. That means when we talk about the issues, we then narrow it down to the solution. And when we say who is going to action it in government, we are government. But specifically, And Femi Boyede will say this, having worked in government and been around government and having worked around implementation strategies, he would understand that the pressure mounted by stakeholder groups, especially in this area of trade by the diaspora community, is very significant and very important. It is also important that as we meet in this group, and I use the word we because I like the whole level of quality of conversation and the experience available to this group, is that we understand that how do we address the subject matter of interest. In this interest, will that policy be passed, which is always a major challenge, limiting against policy formulation, design, and implementation. And it is important for us not to be naive in going about how we make these recommendations. It is not that it is good, but because we understand where the challenge will come from, we are also able to engage. And that is where I would like to end my own position and say finally that whenever you write, Mrs. Titi Ojo said something about, we're going to get the operators to talk about it. Let me assure you, Mrs. Ojo, that what you are talking about is the classical truth, which even all the best practices consulting firms are beginning to understand. You know, sometimes they put people like us together, sit down into a policy one room. They say, come out with a strategy to say how we can increase investments in Nigeria, how we can get people to come and invest in Nigeria. I don't care how brilliant or how intelligent you are. There are more cheaper and simpler and commonsensical ways of doing that. Why don't you go to the companies which you've identified and ask them, what do you want us to change in our rules, our regulations, and whatever that will allow you to come and invest in our country? And that is the approach we must go with what we are talking about here. And on that note, I'll end it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Please, Jay, go ahead while we wait for the second Femi. We have double Femis today to actually round up with a vote of thanks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining. This is the Talking Trade with Femi Boyede, August edition, and it's been really enlightening having Mr. Femi AWOYEMI talk to us about how MSMEs can access the AfCFTA. So just 4 quick announcements. The next edition will be on the 4th of September, so keep an eye out. We'll also send to your emails. If you're not on our mailing list, please feel free to join. You can put that in the chat box so that we can add you to the mailing list. And this is also streaming live on Facebook. The page is Export Digest. So if you missed it earlier or you're joining very late, feel free to just search for Export Digest and then you can rewatch this. We'll also make it available on our YouTube platform. That's also Export Digest, so you can watch again. Recently, we did form a WhatsApp group, which has been very active, a group of professionals and people who are practical on the field. So it will be very useful for you to join that group. Let us know if you would love to join that. Maybe we'll make that link available in the email we'll send to you. So if you're not on our mailing list, make available your email, and then we can send you all this information via email. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. We are finally rounding up. And before we round up finally with a vote of thanks, I want to acknowledge all the people working behind the scenes to make this a very successful one, just like the previous one, and planning already for the next one coming up. Dr. Olutaiwo, thank you so very much. Olugbenga Oshinaike, Sheifumi Adebote, and I won't forget to mention myself, Kemi Amusho, and our guru, Femi Boyede, who has put this together. And we are very happy to work with you. This has been wonderful, and we're looking forward to this team actually affecting a serious change in how Nigeria does business. Thank you, Mr. Femi Boyede.
Yes, thank you very much, Lady K. And as a way of thanking, I understand that the reward for good work is more work. So as I'm thanking the Talking Trade team, I'm also reminding us that there is quite a long way that we're still aspiring to get to. I want to, on behalf of everybody, appreciate Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI. There are some sacrifices, including something that sounds like a wedding anniversary outing that were put aside by our guest speaker today, just to honor us here. I mentioned it not to let your cat out of the bag, but to show the magnitude of our appreciation of what you have done to talk to us. What we have done here today is just scratching the surface. And just like Mr. AWOYEMI, Dr. Ayim, and everybody here has said today, there is a lot that needs to be done. A few concerns in the chat box is, are we just talking, or are these things going to get attention, the desired attention at the relevant levels that can make a change? As far as changing the face of trade in Nigeria is concerned, count us committed. As far as, because fundamentally, it doesn't matter where we are in the diaspora, we are fundamentally Nigerians. So even though talking trade has a global outlook, the fact that we are able to take practical, experiential examples from Nigeria gives us a foundation to start out from. So we will take this to the next level. And also to those who have been our guest speakers and valuable contributors and facilitators, please, we are Oliver Twist. We are going to come back for more. And as we package our thoughts about what to do, constituting a think tank, a brainstorming group that will then fashion what next to do, package our summaries and solutions and how to get them. If it has to be, one sure way already is the fact that we have taken this conversation out of talking trade straight onto the MPNEM platform. Now, you would wonder why this. Of course, for the simple reason that we have discussed today, MPNEM is the network of practicing non-oil exporters of Nigeria. It's broad. It's a board of trustees cut across all segments. Retired elder statesmen and women, I just mentioned Hajia Aisha Abubakar, her co-chair is also of the MPNEM. He's a former minister, double or multiple minister. He was Attorney General, he was Minister of Defense, he was Minister of Labor. They are the two chair of the MPNEM board, and players across the Manufacturers Association, the practitioners, and what have you. So, of course, every time that we have an MPNEM town hall meeting, those support institutions, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Nigeria Export Promotion Council, NEXIM, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria Customs Service, they are usually present. So everything that we have mentioned today will again be summarized and submitted as an input into that next town hall meeting. I encourage you all to join. But again, a reminder to our eggheads here today, we are coming so that we can form a group that can repackage all the thoughts of these esteemed, concerned, victimized, and challenged practitioners in Nigeria's trade sector to put their thoughts in one cohesive, coherent booklet. What did Obama do for trade in America that was different? That's what I'm sure that Mr. AWOYEMI is not aware of this, but that's something that I have been clamoring for. Even though with what you have said this morning, it just goes to show that a finger may not be able to lift anything. A hand will probably lift a teacup. I've been clamoring for Nigeria to be able to clone the Obama template. Obama set up a cabinet committee on export In 1998, sorry, not 1998 now, 2008, in preparation for the economic meltdown that was already confronting them in 2009, he said, first and foremost, for America to get out of the depression that is coming, America must double its trade to the world. So first, they set up a smart, measurable, time-bound objective. He said America must double its trade to the world in the next 5 years. America must create 5 million new jobs in the next 5 years, and it is export trade that will drive it. So for it to materialize, he set up a cabinet committee on export, which America is still implementing. Trump could not excise it because it became a law. It became National Export Initiative Next. NAINEX, you can Google that. So it has transcended 2 administrations already. It is still going on. The president was the chairman. Every minister or secretary in America that has anything to do with trade was a member, and they met once every month. So it wasn't CBN issues a policy today, and Nigeria Shippers Council says, oh no, you didn't contact us. This policy is in violation of so policy of setting up Shippers Council, just for example. So you are going to achieve something as a nation, you sing from the same hymn book, to borrow Mr. Awoyemi's word. I wish that phrase was the last that I would say. I think it is time for us to sing from the same hymn book so that the nation and our trading partners can begin to enjoy an improved, a rejuvenated trade and investment activity for Nigeria. Mr. Awoyemi, you have only spoken to us about trade today. You are an investment guru. And there are people that I actually personally invited here to come and listen because of the investment angle. So I appeal to them that Mr. Awoyemi is going to come back again. This time around, we will allow him to focus on investment opportunities on the African continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And on this note, we say a huge thank you again to Mr. Olufemi AWOYEMI for honoring us. We're looking forward to having him again. And thank you to all the team members. Thank you to everyone that is here present. And we want to say bye-bye. See you again in September. Always remember the date is easy to remember. Every first Saturday of the month at 12 noon. Yeah, that is ET, Toronto time, and that is 5 p.m. Nigerian time. London changes, it may be 5, it may be 6, but once you remember, every first Saturday of the month and 12 noon Toronto time, 5 p.m. Nigerian time. See, try your possible best to always register. We control this strictly. It's not open to just anyone to join. So it's only by registration. When you see our next information going out about how to register, please do not ignore it, thinking you can just come in. It's not possible. You have to register. Thank you so very much, everyone. See you again next month.